Hi, Karen. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hello.
Um, I was reading through my notes this morning and thinking about our conversation. And so I just want to start by really offering gratitude to you for writing this beautiful, amazing book that I truly believe every modern woman should have in their library, in their toolkit, in their next to their bed, because the way that you weave together the science with the stories, with the yoga, and I'll even add, I don't know if that this was intentional, but the Ayurvedic tradition is all throughout the whole book. It's so wise, it's so beautiful, and it's such a gift to our lives. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that was my
Um,
intention to
yeah,
make it something women really need on their bedside table.
that's exactly it. And I think that there's this handful of books that I refer to and that I tell women, I try to get in their hands and teach from and talk about all the time, is these books that can go throughout all the stages of being alive, of being human, through all of the things that we go through. So these practices that we return to that can really help us with the integration of whatever arises, right? Because it's all
Yes.
going to arise, everything.
Yeah. And I wrote this book because as a mom, I really felt that I didn't realize it because I had many practices. I had already been a meditator for many years.
Yeah.
I had many practices, but I realized I had a very shaky foundation. And a big part of the foundation piece that was missing was rest.
Yeah. So
Foundation of health.
tell everybody about the journey of the book. And also, there's so many stories in the book of women who've gone through your program. So you had that originally and then decided to write the book, or tell me a little bit about the origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just turned on by yoga nidra meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I was a mom with little kids and I was exhausted and I did not plan to take a nap. I always call yoga nidra my nap,
Yeah.
right? It's like a super nap. But I walked into a yoga studio thinking I was going to take a bendy, stretchy yoga class. And then I saw to my right a whole bunch of women lying down, looking totally blissed out and looking like what looked like a nap.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I want what they got. I don't know what they got, but I want what they got. And from there, it just turned into this love affair with yoga nidra meditation. I'd never felt so deeply rested, but there were a lot more benefits as well, which we'll probably talk about
Mm-hmm.
in this time together. But the main piece that kept sticking with me is I want to go share this with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, when you have a really good thing, I think it's Dr. Clarissa Pinkola says when you find good medicine, share it with others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, rest medicine was really good medicine, and daring to rest, yoga nidra meditation is rest medicine
Mm-hmm.
for our modern times. We don't know how to go into that space of doing nothing. We don't know how to power down. And so this guides you to that space. And I was so jazzed up about it that I got trained in yoga nidra meditation. First, I got trained in the iRest method with Richard Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And I started teaching something called Nap Quest for Moms. And it was a 40-day journey, similar to my book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all online. Even in the early days, I had a friend who told me everything's going online, and I was like, how could you not do this in person? And she's like, no, everything's going online. And well, she was right. And then I just started to feel this rumble, this purpose in offering women an opportunity each year. So would do it once a year. It wasn't my main business. It was like a side business. I just thought it was really powerful. And every year I looked forward to the 40 days that I would go through with women. And it had different names. It started out as Nap Quest for Moms. One year it was called the 40-Day Feminine Leap.
Mm.
I mean, there were different names
Yeah.
for this program that then became Daring to Rest.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, was running a training program with midwives and doulas, and I was
Mhm.
training midwives and doulas and found that the foundation of the program was yoga nidra meditation. And what they seemed to use the most with their pregnant mamas and postpartum mamas was yoga nidra meditation. And everything just kept informing me. And then I decided I wanted to get more serious about really running a yoga nidra meditation business, which I thought was really odd. Like, wow, what does that mean? Like, I'm in the business of rest, offering people rest. But this was deep, magical, transformational sleep
Yeah.
that, to me, again, it was this anecdote for our modern times with the busy, the lure of doing more, to be more productive, all of these things that I raised my hand. I mean, I'm doing this work because that has been, rest has been a challenge for me,
Mm.
right? I mean, tell me to go build a house in a week and I'm ready, I'm in, right? But what I realized is you can't build a house and build a house and build a house and build a house. You've got to have rest and digest
Mhm.
time as well. And now that I've plugged that in more, it's really made a huge difference in my life, and I wanted to do that with others. And so I wrote the book Daring to Rest based on the experiences through the 40-day program of women who've been through my 40-day program, but also probably about 3 years before I wrote the book, I only was focusing on yoga nidra meditation. That was my company.
Mhm.
And I was doing 9-month immersion programs with women.
Mhm.
The same journey of Daring to Rest, but stretching it out 9 months so that we really took a deep dive, because the point of the book Daring to Rest isn't just to go and once in a while practice yoga nidra meditation.
Right.
It's really to make rest a lifestyle, to
Mhm.
tap into rhythm, to tap into resonance.
Mhm.
These are cousins: rest, rhythm, resonance. A big inspiration of mine is Dr. Ruben Nyman. He wrote a book called Healing Night. That book talks a lot about these three, I call them like the three sisters:
Mhm.
rest, rhythm, and resonance.
Mhm.
And the more we practice yoga nidra meditation, the more we get in touch with these three sisters. And the
Mhm.
more we begin to literally wake up in our lives. So to me, yoga nidra meditation is lying down to wake up.
Yeah.
It's an awakening practice. Yes, it will help you feel more well-rested. For me, that was the initial piece. When I was a mom with young kids, all I needed was rest. I was totally sold on yoga nidra when they told me 45 minutes feels like 3 hours of sleep in your body. I was like, sign me up, because I need to have more bang for my buck on sleep, because the kids are like nonstop. And those years with your early years with
Yeah.
kids, you can't really control your sleep
No.
situation, right?
Mm.
So this really suddenly helped me become more joyous, more happy in my life, where I was just more like a robot before that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of going through the motions, telling everyone I was fine, when I wasn't really so fine.
Yeah. That Do you think that, have you ever heard people ask you, especially women, around, if I do this, I'm afraid I won't get back up. Like, I'm so tired that I have to keep working. I have to keep doing, because I don't trust myself yet to rest and then be productive or do something after. Have you ever heard anything like that? Like, this
Yeah,
has come up a
yeah.
bunch lately in our circles, and it's so interesting to me. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we tell ourselves these things, and I think that we have a lot of rest shame, and we've kind of
Yeah.
been convinced of
Yeah.
this false reality. It does take a while to get used to rest
Yeah.
and to actually balance the being and the becoming. And
Mhm.
that's why the book is written in 3 phases: rest, release, and rise, because rise is very much a part
Yeah.
of our soul. Our soul wants us to rise. Our soul wants us in becoming. We just need the being as well. We need, the balance of the two. And so when we first start resting, many people do actually feel like, oh gosh, I'm not, maybe I won't get to this or that or the other. And then you find when you make rest a lifestyle, you find the balance. You're not collapsing from rest. You're not checking out with rest. Yoga Nidra is helping you check in.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of rest.
Yeah.
It's very different. Like I did the check out kind of rest,
Yeah.
like laying on the couch,
Yeah.
like that. This is the check in kind of rest. And so you do wake up, and most women, I don't like to really brand it as you'll be more productive, because I think that's something our culture has taught us
Yep.
is makes us worthy, makes us enough, and I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I don't like to brand it that way. But what I find, and this is why we do emphasize the rise phase and how to rise rooted, how women can rise rooted, because we do need to be in service in the world, and there are things to do, and there are real things to do, as in get the groceries done and make dinner at night. And so what if we could rest and rise, and we can, it's not an either or.
Yeah. And that sort of energy, the way I've also sort of talked about it and just felt it really in my own life is the trust that happens. It's almost like before, when I was really living in very high beta all the time, in all the ways, in every moment, that I hadn't developed that trust of rhythm and routine. And so it was scary at first to sort of watch myself let go of some areas and then kind of waver and dance back and forth to play with it. And then watch myself, like, especially with my cycles and the moon, and the teaching of Ayurveda really helped me lean into the fact that, oh my gosh, there are these times in the month when I'm expansive and energetic, and these times when I'm quiet and inward. And then if I watch it for like a number of months in a row, I can really feel that expansion and contraction. That I'm not doing anything to do it. I just I'm like letting go of a lot of things to make space for that natural rhythm. And that I just find so much of that language in your book and in the 40 days that you outlined. So that was really a beautiful connection. Can you talk a little bit about, so I know that the women in our community will be asking questions around, so what's the difference between this and the other meditation at Insight, or at all the different types or TM, or is this another thing I need to learn how to do, or what's the difference between this and sleeping, and sort of, can you talk a little bit about the layers and the differences?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a meditator for a really long time, and mostly, it was conventional meditation, which keeps you in your beta brain. It keeps you in that waking state where you follow your breath or you follow a mantra. I didn't do a lot of guided meditation, but I did a lot of silent meditation. Typically, in conventional meditation, you're in your beta brain, and in Yoga Nidra, you go from that beta brain, the waking state, to the dreaming state, into the deep sleep state, and then to a fourth state of consciousness that you can't get when you're sleeping. It's called Turiya. And in the fourth state of consciousness, this is supreme relaxation. This is when the thoughts, because as you go to sleep, your thoughts get less and less. When you're in a fourth state of consciousness, a lot of yogis say that you go to a place that is zero stress. So there's no thoughts. I would say they're very, very, very low. And even if you dip into it for, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute each time you're practicing Yoga Nidra, you have this opportunity to rewire yourself, rewire habits, patterns, emotions, things that aren't working in your life, and redirect conscious energy toward what's more in your true nature. So your subconscious mind is very open when you're in this deep state in the fourth state of consciousness, even in deep sleep. It's almost like if you think about sometimes people who are they've been in a traumatic car accident, they might not, automatically their body goes into a coma. Some people, they get induced into a coma in order to let their body rejuvenate, the organs rejuvenate. Well, the brain waves are very similar to like a coma. where you actually, finally your body can rest. When the thoughts go back, ego begins to fall back as well. So the thoughts get less, ego falls away, your true nature comes forward, and you feel more aligned when you wake up in Yoga Nidra to everything that is in alignment with the truth of who you are. Mm-hmm. So what happens is the toxic people in your life, you start to really recognize, ooh, this is toxic. Like instead of when you're busy and you kind of know, oh, he's an asshole or whatever, kind of thing, but you go back to the asshole again and again and again. Suddenly in Yoga Nidra, you practice enough, you exercise the muscle of rest enough, and you don't go back to the assholes because they smell really bad. Mm-hmm. You get a full body yuck. Mm-hmm. And then you feel more attracted to your full body yum. In this fourth state of consciousness, the subconscious mind is so open and fertile, so we plant intentions there in Yoga Nidra meditation. That's not something in conventional meditation that I'd experienced before. It is a guided meditation, but it's very specific. It takes you through a map and it takes you through these 5 koshas. So in yoga, they don't think of the body as just the physical body. It's also the energy body, the mental body, the wisdom body, and the bliss body. And when you travel and bring awareness to these 5 koshas, these 5 bodies of awareness, knowing that your body is not just this gross, heavy physical body, but there's more subtle layers. Mm-hmm. The veils begin to lift on the layers, and you can be more connected to your soul, to your purpose, to that truth of who you are. I mean, ultimately, Yoga Nidra meditation is a pointer back to your true nature. Yeah, that's what it does. Each time you lie down. That's why I say it's lying down to wake up. But what's exciting and yummy and great, especially for me when I was an exhausted mom of 2 little, very active boys, it gave me the rest that I needed. Yeah. It just powered me down in ways that I could not power down in a very busy life. Yeah. I could not find a way to power down. I actually didn't have sleep issues, although I work with many women who have sleep issues. Yeah. I didn't personally have sleep issues. I actually usually collapsed on the pillow right after the kids went to bed and I was out. So sleep wasn't an issue for me, but what I will say is that for many people, it helps reteach the body how to go to sleep, how to power down. Many times sleep is just a matter of our bodies don't know how to power down. The mind, the thoughts are what keep us stressed. Mm-hmm. So if we can get the thoughts to begin to recede, we can fall asleep. Yeah. And we can fall back to sleep when we wake early in the morning, because a lot of women in menopause are going to.
Yeah. Do a lot of people fall asleep in the practice? And is that okay or not okay? Or how do you sort of talk about the falling asleep? I've been to Yoga Nidra, especially during teacher training, and years ago, I used to go regularly, and there was always someone who would fall asleep so loudly and be just snoring away next to me. And then my mind would hook on to the snoring, and I would be like, shh, until eventually I was like, oh, this is just what happens. Lots of other people are going to fall asleep around me. And this is part of the practice,
Yeah. Sometimes people can call it yoga snoredra.
Yeah. And then someone said, why am I paying to hear all that snoring?
Well, we talk about this with our Daring to Rest facilitators, because I train women in Yoga Nidra, to have a policy about that. There are
What's
ways.
your policy? How do you do that?
You don't kick people out but you do wake them up. You do say that you're going to wake up snorers. Every teacher is different, and but it can be very distracting. Not that you can't be in a Yoga Nidra class with the snoring, because as you said, I mean, really, we're in Yoga Nidra, we're practicing and welcoming everything just as it is.
Right.
So, okay, the snoring could be one thing, but I did Yoga Nidra for years in New York City. There were sirens all the time, noises all the time during Yoga Nidra. So there you are in this deeply relaxed state, and there are the noises, but actually that's good practice for real life as well. Mm-hmm. But snoring can be particularly triggering for some people, because they may have a snorer, they may have a partner that is beside them that snores. So it can be particularly triggering. Uh, a yoga nidra experience, typically, even if you fall asleep, you are absolutely benefiting because there's a part of you that's always awake. Your subconscious mind hears my voice regardless. And so the deep rest, the deep relaxation piece, even the waking up piece, being pointed to your true nature, it will happen. While we do repeat an intention in Yoga Nidra, if you go back and really look at the literature on Yoga Nidra, intention isn't really even necessary because Yoga Nidra will always point you to your highest truth, your highest self, your highest, So whatever you need to manifest in your life, you need to be aligned with, Yoga Nidra will point you there. So whether you repeat your intention or not, you're still going to be aligned there, and there's a part of you that will always hear my voice. Yes, it is better. We do encourage people to stay awake and aware. That's usually when you will just begin to have a bit of more of a deeper experience with the practice. But you will absolutely benefit. I slept probably for the first 6 months of Yoga Nidra. I was an exhausted mother. I don't know if I snored. No one told me I snored, but I did a 45-minute class. It was a total of an hour, but about 45 minutes of Yoga Nidra. We usually don't do more than that. And I do 15 minutes during the week most times. I don't do really long Yoga Nidras. I do 15 to 20-minute ones. On the weekends, I might do longer with my husband and my kids, but I don't tend to do it during the week at all, more than 15, 20 minutes. And it's just one of those things that, sometimes people fall asleep. And if you needed sleep, you needed sleep. So enjoy it.
I remember I was in a Rod Stryker training for, I think, 4 Desires a few years ago. And he had said that something like, someone said, well, what if I fall asleep when I'm doing this contemplation? He was like, then you're tired, get some sleep. So sometimes it's like overthinking it, right? Can you talk a little bit about, I love, love, love how you weave the brain science and the neuroscience and the latest research into the book. Like it's so, I think oftentimes with these really wonderful, helpful books, they do like a whole chapter just on brain science and then you sort of skip and then you sort of move on. And what I love about what you did was weaving it throughout because it could really reinforce the concept. So give us a little bit, for people who haven't read the book yet, what's happening in our physiology and why is this so important right now?
Yeah, well, our whole bodies, let's just say, we're under stress, right? So we know this. There is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches of our nervous system. And Yoga Nidra meditation, the moment you start to rotate attention through the body, you begin to turn on that parasympathetic branch of the nervous system and the breath work as well. So we rotate attention through the body. We begin to do some deep conscious breath work. Right there, your parasympathetic branch is so happy. And not that you don't want sympathetic branches, you want to balance. You don't want to only be in parasympathetic because you'd be like a zombie. And that's why you actually see some yogis who do a lot of meditation. I'm not saying they're zombies, but I'm saying that they can't balance their checkbook, or things like that. They can't do some basic things because you're not going to be in that state all the time. But you do want this balance. And so the moment that you start to do body rotation, breath work, that starts to happen. And then when we go into the mental body in Yoga Nidra, after breath work, we usually begin to pair opposites. And this is so powerful to allow the right and left sides of the brain to begin to balance so that we don't fall into that sense of either or. We actually can begin to, we're purifying and we're being led toward unification in the body. We often pair opposites, even in rotating attention throughout the body, like the body sensing that we begin Yoga Nidra with. But in the mental body, we become aware of emotions and we are able to begin to take that step back as we go into the wisdom body as the observer of our lives. And this, again, I mean, it's all really, to be honest, the Yoga Nidra, the primary thing is, it triggers that relaxation response. The moment you have that triggered, you start to release so many important hormones that the adrenals begin to relax. You have serotonin that, with depression and the dopamine and all of these pieces that are so out of balance when we're stressed, they come into balance. They start to become more regulated. So, hormonally for many women, they might be having a lot of hot flashes, perimenopausally, after a baby, anytime that, but a lot of times if you get this sleep, this regular sleep, that goes away.
Yeah.
I also say to women, because Yoga Nidra is not a pill, it's not a pill. So I always say, somebody who's not sleeping, or going to bed very late at night, go to bed by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And also, see, that's very Ayurvedic.
Yeah. Nobody likes to hear that when I give
Nobody
them
likes, spent a weekend with people at a retreat recently, leading a retreat, where you get a lot of angry looks. Although then I get a lot of emails from women who do it saying that it made all the difference.
All the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes so much sense naturally in rhythm with nature and harmony and all that. But I think also if we're in that sort of more fiery, people who tend to stay up late, the energy behind it tends to be a little bit more fiery because we're doing stuff. We're like cleaning stuff or cleaning stuff out or doing our email or cleaning the closet, and then we rest. So there's a lot of pitta. There's a lot of fire there. So if I say like, yeah, let's, try to go to bed between 9 and 10 and I get fire back, I'm like, oh, there's a little pitta imbalance. We just want to deal with that with sweetness and love. But it's not so personal. It's more energetic. And that just, for me, feels a little bit more universal.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find is that women who do it, because the body loves rhythm. Yeah. The body loves rhythm. And even if it's 11 o'clock at night, the body loves rhythm. So go to bed at 11 o'clock every single night. Yeah. I say, start there. You can work your way back to 10.
Right. Secretly. We won't tell you that now, but okay. We have to talk about the feminine highway.
Yes.
Please. I love it. I love this whole section. I have it all highlighted and exclamation points. So tell everyone about the feminine opening your feminine highway.
Yeah, my healer taught me this, and I mentioned him in the book, David Wright. Although he didn't call it opening your feminine highway. I think I said, oh, it's opening your feminine highway. And he's like, okay.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. But he had me start doing this practice where you think of your hands like electrodes, and you take your right hand and you put it in your vaginal area, just by your perineum, just put it down low. And then you put your other hand on your middle of your chest, like right at your heart. Mm-hmm. And then honestly, you just hold it there. Yeah. It's very simple. It's very simple. And there is a highway. There is a valve that we open, a feminine valve that this opens to allow us to access that place of receiving, that place of, again, the rootedness that women often feel is often from not embracing their womanhood. Mm-hmm. And so this very simple practice is so deeply empowering. I've done it when I watch television. Mm-hmm. I mean, David Wright told me that. And I thought, really? Yeah. And he said, oh yeah. He said, you don't need to be thinking about waterfalls and chakras and anything like that. Just while you're watching television, do it. And I thought, okay. But a lot of times I do it also when I wake up in the morning or sleep at night. Yeah. I find that's a really good time. 3, maybe 5 minutes minimum. Okay. But you can do it longer. I sometimes do it longer as well. But it really shifts you energetically. And a lot of women who feel blocked, it's like most of us who are stressed, we're a block of ice. This gets the river flowing.
Mm.
This begins to melt the ice.
Yeah.
And Yoga Nidra will do that as well. But this is a practice of really tapping into that conscious femininity within us and helps us reclaim ourselves as women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, touching yourself in your vaginal area, like right, your vagina and perineum,
Mm-hmm.
many women, we've been taught that's taboo,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've been taught our own bodies are against us.
Right. Right.
And so this is reclaiming that.
And I think just because it's so relevant, if you've had sexual trauma, if you've had any abuse, I mean, going through this entire year, I think even those of us, even in our circles, this year, some of the women have said, like, it wasn't my father or my uncle or a neighbor. It was in college, the way that I let men treat me, I'm now realizing was abuse, but I condoned it, whether it was alcohol or not saying anything or because everyone else was doing it. So I think there's this whole reclaiming. And what I love about this practice is that it gives us a tool that's physical and energetic for all of us to do all of our healing personally, because we need to do it. We've all been through a number of experiences and we don't have the tools. And some of us with these full lives, like, are not in a place to commit to weekly therapy and to like go back and work on all the wounds and all the traumas. And we need these practical wisdom tools that we can do while we're watching Netflix, but that are integrating sort of our real life and our spiritual life and bringing forward into today a real sense of like, I want my power back, you know, and in some way I wasn't even necessarily realizing I was giving it away. So how can I strengthen that connection and be in my body? Embodiment practices.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This whole book is embodiment practices.
Yeah. Oh,
so
totally.
Yoga Nidra is an embodiment practice. And then we have additional practices that reinforce that place of embodiment, because the more you're in your body, we fear our bodies. We fear meeting what's in our bodies because we do have trauma.
Yeah.
But the more we meet it, the more we go beyond. The more things soften. And that's Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra, I love Richard Miller. He talks about it invites you to have tea and conversation with your messenger. And for opening your fem highway, if you've had trauma before, let's say sexual trauma, and that area has been violated, you have the opportunity now to be in control. Nobody's in control of your body except you. And in fact, this is a very empowering position for many women who have had sexual trauma. In fact, it's that first step to taking back your body. Because ironically, or at least it was ironic for me, when I started working with women who had had sexual trauma, they told me the hardest part of the Yoga Nidra was the body rotation, because they just didn't trust their bodies. They didn't, they felt their bodies had let them down, or they'd been violated in their bodies in some way. To go to their body was very hard. And of course, the whole practice is going to your body, but the rotation to different parts was very hard initially, but ultimately liberating.
Yeah. And I know, just thinking back, I've been doing a lot of this, like writing and research on this book project that I'm working on, and it's digging up, I'm going through a lot of old journals. And so there's some stories and some memories that are coming back that have not been in sort of present life, you know? And one of the things I noticed that I'm starting to putting together is that there were some experiences I had when I was really young that talked about my body, and where men were talking about my body, and about, there was one phrase in particular where one of my uncle's friends said, I was probably 7 or 8, and he said, she has bedroom eyes. And I didn't quite knew what that meant, except it wasn't good, and I didn't want it, and I didn't understand it. And I remember thinking, I want to almost like prove intellect or cognitive ability, because I want to ignore that the body would bring anything other, like any other value system. And so I remember trying to sort of cover, like doing just a lot of covering up, just a lot of like, I don't want anybody to see this because I don't want these references. I don't want people to talk about these things that I don't understand. I didn't understand what he was saying, but it didn't feel good. And I felt really scared of it. And then I remember sort of being like, I'm going to go read and talk about all my books I'm reading. Like I remember like really trying to separate the body from the mind in order to prove worth through the mind. And then that sort of like just continued for the next 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's a story I think many women have.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe not that specific
No,
story, but the
totally.
story of trying to prove worth through doing.
Yeah. And I don't think I would have identified that a few months ago. I didn't really pick up on some of those trends and habits until sort of this dominoes of effect the past year, right? I like quit drinking in July. We had the Kavanaugh stuff. I've been reading your book, doing my own journal. I'm like, oh, look at all these interesting threads that are just like so many other women. And how does the body play in? And then being more comfortable with embodiment practices. And I think that, again, I just really acknowledge your work because this book is such a good tool guide for women who are wanting to explore more of the embodiment practices in a really compassionate and loving and non-threatening way, you know?
Yeah, for me, I had done a lot of therapy before, and I had done a lot of different practices
Yeah, yeah,
before. And when I found Yoga Nidra, I thought, what? I could lie down and
yeah,
basically do nothing. And so much transformed in my life
yeah.
from it. I mean, so much that
And
it was beyond what I expected.
how old are your boys now?
18 and almost 20.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about what the practice has been like supporting their stages? I mean, I'm sure it hasn't all been like rainbows and roses and yoga nidra, bliss.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm starting to write about that more because it's
Yeah,
something that I really, now I have a little more perspective.
yeah,
I'm not as in it.
yeah,
And it has been really interesting to journey through that. I mean, the 40 days kind of came out of my total break. The teaching
yeah.
women 40 days came out of my total breakdown with my older son, who, well, it was a combination. It was like a perfect storm.
Mm,
But I talk about this. I don't think I talk about this specifically in the book. I talk about how we had a very serious robbery. And I talk about this in the chapter on bliss, ironically, how we experienced a very serious robbery in Africa when we were living there. And when we came back to the United States, my husband ended up taking a job in a place where we found the perfect school for my son, like an ideal school, but we couldn't afford it. And we had to sue the school district to get the funding. And my son is severely dyslexic.
mhm.
So, actually I think day 10, as my husband says, he doesn't forget, he started screaming, and he didn't stop screaming for a year and a half. We ate every meal with a vacuum cleaner on. That was the only way he would stop screaming, and we could actually put him down so we could eat. And otherwise we held him, and even then he would scream when we'd hold him, so it wouldn't make much of a difference.
Yeah.
We checked everything medically. Everything seemed fine. And it turns out that he was dyslexic. He is dyslexic.
Mhm.
And he had severe learning differences, meaning that he didn't recognize the word the and all of these things until really about eighth grade. So, that basically means everything. It's just like if we were in the United States and everything was in French in front of us. We couldn't read any of the signs. We couldn't read the menu. We didn't know what was happening around us. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was breaking my heart.
Mm.
And I had already experienced Yoga Nidra when he was about 4 years old, and it really got me through an incredible time of exhaustion.
Mm.
And I felt so much better from it. But then when we went to Tanzania and had a very serious robbery.
Yeah.
In the post-traumatic stress that me and my younger son went through, I forgot about yoga nidra. Just forgot. Life got busy.
Yeah.
We had lost all our possessions. We had no money. All of these things happen again, like, the perfect storm. And my son couldn't read, write, and was calling himself stupid and screaming underneath his bed. And so it was a really heartbreaking time. And that's when I remember the day that my husband came home and I just said, the kids are yours. I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And I took my minivan, drove where I thought I was driving really far away, but there was a raging thunderstorm. I drove to the edge of our little area and I sat by a park and I just broke down, hysterical, crying. And that's when it hit me, like, why wasn't I practicing yoga nidra? Like I literally finished crying and I was like, I need a nap.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, I'm going to practice every day for a year. For 1 year, I'm going to practice every day. Well, it turned out I practiced like for 40 days. I didn't know I didn't do that on purpose. I just happened to practice 40 days in a row. Yeah. And I got really serious. And I'll tell you, nobody thinks their life has any space for rest.
Yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. And I could name all the reasons why
yeah.
I couldn't rest.
Yeah.
My kids literally still were like very active boys.
Yeah.
I had work at this point. I was working, and there were so many reasons to not rest. But I said, that's it. I'm resting. And I made a little rest cave in my basement, literally like a yoga mat, a pillow, an eye pillow, blanket. And it was my little sweet space. And I went there every single day for 40 days. And everything changed. I mean, we were suing the school district at the time, as I mentioned. And I just had a whole different perspective on that whole situation, because we had never sued anyone before. We had never seen our son falling apart. And when I went to a meeting, one of the final meetings we had with the school district, I hadn't seen my lawyer for about a month. And so she looked at me, she asked me if I had a facelift. I was like, no, but I didn't tell her I was practicing yoga nidra. I was too embarrassed at that time. But that's basically my facelift. I was so clear. We walked out of there and she said, everything you just said, you just got him funded. I know you got him funded. I was clear. I was calm. I was focused. I was rested. And I was able to rise and rooted and take the action I needed to for my son, because we're, as moms, everyone has something that they're dealing with their child. Nobody, there's always something. So for me, it was a severely dyslexic child, but for others, it's other things.
Yeah.
And with our son, it changed his life, and my life changed because I realized that this is now a lifestyle. I must make yoga nidra meditation a lifestyle. This is now a foundation. Like this feels so foundational to my life. Yeah. And that was it. And then I got trained. 2 months later, I trained in Irish Yoga Nidra. I signed up for the training. And then I went. I've been trained in I'm also certified in the Amrit method for Yoga Nidra. So I have many different influences that have combined into what I teach now.
Yeah. And it's just been with you. I mean, I really love that story about, I knew about it, some stuff happened, I forgot, my body remembered at the right time, at the right moment, really after that release, right, of the crying and sort of getting out. It was like wisdom again, that your true dharma, your true nature, like had space to breathe and sort of be rebirthed. And these are things that we can't like put on a 5-year plan or write out on our goal list. We think we're controlling our path and our dharma and what we're supposed to do next in our career, in our life, or for our kids. And so much of that clearing space and watching the process as we're engaging with it is so powerful. I think that this commitment to the lifestyle, because something we talk about all the time is that the life stuff is going to, just like what you said, is happening or going to happen. And so really in honor of our families, of our service, of our commitment to our lives, having a rest practice that's foundational gives us that engagement with the clarity and the strength that we're going to need,
Yeah.
at some point for some reason. So rather than the whack-a-mole, like, oh, I'm going to blah, 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 and do this with that adrenal fatigue or with the, overwhelming autoimmune issues that are popping up, this sort of shift of priorities, really, that rest becomes a priority in honor of our life and our commitment to service, not as a way of being selfish or lazy, which is stuff I hear women say all the time, which is it's just actually the opposite. It's like, I love my family so much that I want to take care of myself at these deepest levels because I might need to do a mama bear fight soon. And in order to do a mama bear fight, I want to be clear. I want to be focused.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, Yoga Nidra really reminds us of this.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we can break, but we don't need to be broken.
Yeah.
There are times that we're going to have things fall apart, but everything comes back together as well.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap up, how can people get started? What do you want them to know as they really commit to their rest? Obviously, get the book. That's number one. Where else can they learn more, and what do you want them to do?
Right. So I think that the main thing, absolutely get the book. It's a 40-day program. Go give yourself 40 days.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to rest for 40 days. Try it out. You don't have to say, this is rest for life. See if you like it. Maybe my voice is not right for you. Maybe it's Yoga Nidra is not right for you. That's fine. But try it. Mm-hmm. And that's the best first way to try it. Mm-hmm. I will say if you want a really short, easy way to try it, and I can actually give you a link for this. Okay. Pleasant, there's a 61-point body rotation that I teach women. Mm-hmm. And our facilitators are taught this in every single Daring to Rest class. Mm-hmm. We begin and end with rest, and many of our facilitators will just teach 61 points. These are Marma points. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic. I have an audio of it that everyone, I'll give you a link. They can get the audio. Great. And the audio helps you go to sleep at night. It helps you if, you want to calm down quick. It's like a good 5-minute practice. And the more you practice it, the more you can do it automatically. Like if you're on the supermarket aisle, I had panic attacks for many years, and I share that in the book. Mm-hmm. And that became a saving grace for me, like on a supermarket aisle line or wherever I was. Maybe I had to go excuse myself to the bathroom, and I'd do the 61 points and feel more centered, come back into a room feeling more in harmony. So yeah.
And if you get the book, you get the downloads. You've recorded all those wonderful practices at the end of the book, which I really love. So So there's 3 Yoga Nidra meditations that come with the book. There's a link. Email me if the link doesn't work, because it didn't work for you, Pleasance, and it's weird that it works for some and it doesn't work. You're not the only one. It didn't work, but it doesn't work for some. I have no idea why. It's true. Sounds True, my publisher. So those come with the book. So it is really a book and 3 Yoga Nidra meditations. And that's the best place to start. Do the 40 days, then see if you really feel yummy and juicy. I mean, we have a nap club subscription, a nap club for women. And it's women who really want to commit to the lifestyle. And I give them Daring to Rest prescriptions each month, rest prescriptions. Oh, cool. That's really wonderful. Thank you for doing that. I'm sure we'll have people who listen to this who will be who will be raising their hand for that club.
We just need accountability. That's the issue. Right. After the 40 days, some people will stay accountable. I'm kind of the person who will stay accountable, but
me too.
Most people,
are not. I know.
Need accountability. So you got to feel out everyone has to feel out who they are.
Totally. And the women who are listening who've done the Gretchen Rubin test, the habit test, and know that they are the obliger and they need the external accountability, those are the people I want to sign up. And those of you who don't need that, the questioners, the rebellers, like, you could do it on your own. That's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I want people to, we're going to put the link in the show notes so that they can have that and start to experience the points. Just to close, I want to say, Karen and I have been in communication for many years because I don't think we ever did officially offer a nap for moms at Little Ohm, but we tried.
Yeah.
And we've been back and forth. We have so many friends in common, and I've watched your work over so many years, and I just love, I just am cheering you on from the sidelines. I'm watching Daring to Rest everywhere, all over my feeds, and the people that I follow and listen to who I deeply respect, who really are aligned with integrity and humility and practice, and not just BS in this crazy, overwhelming social media world. And I'm just so proud of you, and I'm so excited for you, and I love the work you're bringing in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It is truly a pleasure to be even having this conversation with you and to see you just bring this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pleasance. That was touching. Thanks so much. And yeah, deep bow to all you're doing as well, and to all the women who are listening.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.